Everyone, I hope you're having a good day. It looks really bright in here, but it's actually getting a little bit cloudy outside, a little sinister even. We were expecting some rain and stuff. There was Storm Ewan, I think it was, that came in from Ireland the other day, so we're still experiencing the after effects of that to some degree, which just came after another named storm. Fun fact, completely unrelated to today's video, the UK didn't actually start naming storms until 2015, and the reason we started naming storms was because researchers actually figured out that if they named storms, then people took them more seriously, they were easier to identify and to convey information about as well. So by naming a storm, you're essentially safeguarding and preparing with much more urgency, I suppose, and with much more efficiency, which is why we have been using the naming conventions for storms since 2015, so 3 years now, and it seems to be going okay, and they cycle through the alphabet and then they go back around, as far as I know, and I think genders do come into it. An American study, I've just gone off on a whole weather tangent here, but just bear with me because I find this so fascinating. An American study actually found that people prepare less and don't take as seriously storms that have female names compared to storms that have male names. So if you ever doubted that there was a form of presupposed and perhaps even subliminal sexism that is inherent in our current structures of society, oh, well, there's your evidence right there. I mean, if it's a storm that's named with a female name, it can't possibly be as serious as a guy named one. No, we'll prepare less, and that's what they found in America, at least. So that is so interesting to me. Completely unrelated to today's video. So let's get on with what we're actually here for, which is what I promised you: information about sugars in various different restaurant desserts. And this was actually really interesting for me. So when I started researching this, I suddenly started realizing that restaurants were giving these crazy numbers for sugar measurements. Things like, I'll go into it. But for example, one of them had measurements in the 70s, and they were like, oh, this is only 87% of your daily sugar intake. Don't worry about it, sort of thing. But and I looked into it, and yes, our daily sugar intake does give 4 recommendations. For women, it's 90 grams. For men, 120 grams. For children, 85 grams. But remember, this is all sugar, not free sugars, not added sugars. And this is where nutritional guidelines really do play a cheeky game, I'm going to say, because they're factoring it in on the entire daily recommendation. But our recommendation for free sugars, which I'm going to haul up right now, is 30 grams. We shouldn't be having more than 30 grams of our nutritional intake from free sugars a day. But because free sugars don't have to be independently listed on nutritional guidelines, companies can literally sell a chocolate cake which has 70 grams of sugar and be like, oh, don't worry about it, it's only 87% of your overall intake, you're fine, without actually mentioning that you tipped over your recommended free sugar intake, which is what really matters when you're looking at something like a chocolate cake, for example. So that is so... it's a oversight in our current nutritional guidelines, and it is part of the reason that nutrition is so confusing and so complicated. And even I mean, I'm no nutritional expert, but I am a researcher. I have a master's in research. I like to pride myself to some degree on my ability to find things out, and even I'm there like, what's going on here? sort of thing. So it's frustrating, and I can't even imagine what it must be like for just the average, the average stay-at-home mum, for example, or the average teenager who's just trying to get a little bit healthier. they want to live a healthy life, but then they're looking at all of this information and it is so complex and convoluted. There are so many loopholes that it's like, what are you doing? It's crazy. And then there's this concern about why am I not doing things right? You're putting in the effort, you're trying to find the information, you are doing right. The industry and the nutritional guidelines and the information that's out there and how it's conveyed is not always the clearest. You're not to blame here. We just have very poor structures in place for this. But moving on from that, in comes the rain outside. Moving on from that, which is good because I look like less of a ghost now because I was glowing a moment ago. Moving on. I went back through most of the restaurants that I'd already done. I looked through some of their desserts. And as you'd expect, these are something that is okay if you have it every now and then as a treat. They're going to go over. That's fine. You're allowed to go over your daily intake every now and then as long as it's not a daily occurrence. It's a daily intake for a reason. And no one is perfect. So I'm not saying avoid these at all costs, but I am saying if you have these frequently, then you are going over your sugar intake. And this is the measurements that you can expect to be going over by. So let's keep in mind 30 grams free sugar. That's what we're looking at here. I've selected a lot of desserts that would mostly be made of free sugars. So let's go through it, shall we? So starting again at Wetherspoons, I went immediately for one of my favourite desserts. I went and looked at it straight away. This is the one I've been citing in my conversation. American-style pancakes with ice cream and maple-flavoured syrup. Oh yeah, it's pancake day tomorrow. I'm really feeling it. I love pancakes. 78.3 grams. That's what you could expect to get if you had these American style pancakes with ice cream and maple flavoured syrup. And also keep in mind there, maple flavoured syrup, not maple syrup. So it's not actually maple syrup either. And that's a sort of another way that they cut costs in the food industry, because pure maple syrup is expensive. Then, if you wanted to have a knicker-block of glory, this used to be one of my go-tos when I would eat that sort of stuff when I was a food junkie, and I just loved it. It had to be a knicker-block of glory. It just had to be. It's iconic. And, iconically 95.8 grams of sugar. That's all going to be free sugars, basically. And even if you were just factoring in your entire daily guidelines, you've gone over it as a woman and you're very close to it as a guy, it averages out at the 100% mark. But wait, because Wetherspoons can top that off. They really can. I was so shocked with this one. Warm chocolate brownie with ice cream. And our survey says not only 974 calories, so most of your daily intake if you're a woman, but 113 grams of sugar, and you can bet your ass that most of that is free sugars. Holy cow. How is this allowed? How? I don't get it. I mean, I know I said as a treat it's fine, but even then, how? I mean, you go over to Zzz's, for example, the next restaurant I looked at, their salted caramel chocolate brownie, it's not perfect. 843 calories, but only comparatively 69 grams of sugar. How is Wetherspoons able to almost double that? And that is fine, and consumers wouldn't even think about it. It's just a brownie, you know? So that's crazy. Zzz's, for the most part, was actually fine. I say fine. Eating any single one of their desserts, you are going to go over your daily recommended allowance for free sugars. They're all about 30 grams or above. If you wanted to play it safe, though, you could have the espresso affogato, which was 25 grams. So if you want to avoid free sugars, you want to stay below, that's your safe bet. Wagamama was equally not 113 grams dreadful. If you wanted to play it safe, you go for the mochi. Again, they would stay within the free sugar amount. But if you had a chocolate fudge cake, not only would it be 694 calories, but it would be 63 grams of sugar. And even if you were like, oh, I'm gonna cut down, I'm gonna try something. I want cake, but I'm gonna be good. I'll have the mini cakes. So even if you had the mini cakes, you're still looking at 419 calories and 40 grams of sugar. You're still gonna over your free sugar consumption for the day. A lot better, a lot better than that brownie from the beginning. Why must brownie forsake me? But yeah, still not ideal at all. So then I sidestepped over to the Pizza Express page, where if you want to be careful with your free sugar intake, and this is going to make some people very, very happy. It made me happy. Not that I can eat it, but if I could, I would be super duper happy. Tiramisu is your best bet. Oh yes, 22 grams of sugar and 242 calories. So all in all, quite a reasonable dessert. And oh yes, what more could you want from an Italian restaurant? An Italian meal than a tiramisu for dessert. My shoulder has gone radioactive. We're going to ignore that though and keep on going. Unfortunately, not all of the options were as good, so I'll just try and block that. No, we're going to go for the glowing shoulder. I am ascending, apparently. Vanilla cheesecake and ice cream was 47.8 grams of sugar. And the chocolate glory. It sounds glorious. Has all of the glow and prominence of my arm right now, but also has 89.6 grams of sugar. Not ideal. So then I went to Pizza Hut, another classic that people go to quite a lot. I was instantly drawn to their cookie dough cheesecake slice, which is actually not a bad idea because it only has 22.7 grams of sugar. So that's nice, that's not bad. But then if you wanted their caramel and white chocolate cookie dough, which is another option that sounds really good, that's 59.2 grams of sugar. Keep in mind, again, 30 grams is what we're shooting for, so that's still significantly over. McDonald's, again, not too bad. I wanted a triple chocolate cookie because of course I did. And that is 30 grams exactly. So you would fulfill your free sugar. You'd be going over it, but it's not dreadful. And if you wanted an apple pie, it's only 11 grams. And some of that won't be free sugars because obviously it's fruit. So I actually have to commend McDonald's here quite a bit because they're keeping the sugar content reasonable. And yeah, I am surprised at that. Oreo McFlurry even was 39 grams. I usually would be like, oh, that's so high. But then I have flashbacks to the Wetherspoons brownie, and it's like, you know what, that's fair. But if you wanted a large chocolate milkshake, which I used to get quite a lot, 60 grams, not as good. But finally, I went over to Starbucks, and oh my god, if you wanted a cookies and cream cake, it would be 70.7 grams. If you were to just have a drink, a cafe mocha venti with soya, which would be something I'd go for, that's 34.9 grams of sugar. Full fat, it's 43.8 grams of sugar. And if you were to go for one of my all-time favourites, which would be a venti mocha frappuccino, I love those to bits. Not only is that 378 calories from a drink, but it is also 59.3 grams. So you've well and truly gone over your sugar intake for the day if you have that. So yeah, sugar is everywhere and it is so excessive, and nutritional guidelines don't help people easily discern how to avoid what they need to. I think that is where I am going to have to cut this off because I am near 15 minutes. But I hope you enjoyed this video and my glowing shoulder. Please donate in the comments. You've only got a few days. Please, please, please. I will love you eternally. I do love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.